Welcome to Jedi Alliance. Today, John Rocha joins us as our new co-host as we send Joseph Scrimshaw to become one with the Force, where we discuss what Star Wars brings to real life thanks to VR headsets. Stay with us.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Jedi Alliance.
Welcome, everybody, to Jedi Alliance, a celebration of the greatest saga ever told. I am one of your hosts, the internet's Mark Donica, and joining me is the old wave and the new wave.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, the old guard versus the new guard. We have, I mean, you're not dying, but we keep saying that you're becoming one with the Force,
yes,
Mr.
Yes,
Joseph Scrimshaw.
I brought that up myself, so I'm comfortable with that terminology.
Come to terms with it?
Yes, I brought it. I started it last week, so I'm comfortable with that terminology. Otherwise, if you had brought it up, I would feel a little insulted, like you're going to murder me at the end of the show. But since it was my term, I'm good with it.
We have another surprise at the end of the show. Make sure to stay tuned.
That new music kind of made me feel like a lightsaber is lashing out at those listening. It's like, it's Jedi Alliance, duck!
Aural 3D.
Yeah,
it just comes right at you. And then, of course, the new co-host of Jedi Alliance, Mr. John Rocha.
Hello, everybody. I have my Luke Skywalker as Akira shirt.
So
I brought
good.
it special from We Love Fine to celebrate this opening day for me of becoming a co-host on Jedi Alliance. And
So-
did you put the torch? Did you bring the torch? I just
Yeah.
wanted- okay, I
It's
just
a
wanted to make
little
sure.
lightsaber with some Pez in it. Yeah, that's my torch that I'm going to
That's how
hand
we're
off.
gonna
Pass
Yeah.
it on, yes.
So before we get into the show, let's talk about a little bit where the show is going. Joseph, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah. I just wanted to say again that I've been having such a great time doing the show. All the support from the fans has been absolutely awesome, and we just thought it would be really fun. Last week I did my sort of last show as a co-host, and this week I haven't done any prep. I just saw the questions this morning, and John and Mark are going to take it and run, and we thought it'd be a fun transitional thing for me to just be a guest. So you guys are just going to run, and I'm going to try to keep up today, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm already very winded, so don't worry about it. It'll be great. And then, John, do you have anything you want to say to the fans out there?
Thanks for being so kind and sending the tweets and the comments that you guys have sent, guys and gals, that you all have sent to support me coming on. I mean, it's kind of a daunting task to walk in the footsteps of Ken Knapsack and Joseph Scrimshaw, so I will do my best to keep the flame burning. I love Star Wars to pieces. That's what you need to know. And I'm happy to be on this and happy to be talking Star Wars again after a month off of not talking Star Wars, which has been driving me insane. So.
We're ready to drive you insane in a completely different way.
Yay.
Let's get started with news from the HoloNet. So starting off, over this past weekend, we found out about the Rogue One prequel comic series.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a 3-issue miniseries and a one-shot in October. So there's going to be plenty of time to read through all of this and then check out the movie. What do you guys want to see? Any connections lingering on from the prequel era or the Rebels era so that we can get it as a fade into the film?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing that I'd like to see is, I was reading another article about Rogue One and talking about how you're going to feel the lack of Jedi. So to me, the coolest thing to set up in the comic book would be that connection of, in the prequels and in Rebels, there's still that hope of Jedi around, of like, if we get into lots of trouble, the Jedi can come save us. And it would be great if the comic books kind of set up sometimes where people got slaughtered because they were waiting for the Jedi, and the Jedi didn't come, so our heroes really have that stake of like, it's us and our wits and our blasters. There's no mystical energy field that's going to come save us. You know?
Blood-soaked comic book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oof. What about you, John?
Well, I like that it's going to be a prequel, so that's really important because there's so much more of that we still need to explore, and we haven't. And so I think what you said, Joseph, is great. Like the whole possibility of what will happen, what would happen if people are waiting around for it. It seems logical. You'd wait around for a Jedi. This is all you have left, right, as a defense mechanism. So why not? And I think there's so much more to explore in the relationships in these characters. And if we're going to explore the bounty hunters, if we're going to get a little backstory maybe on how they're separate lives or journeys before they came together to be a part of Rogue One. So I don't know if they're going to explore that, but that would be fun to see.
I would like that too, because then that saves you time in the film to introduce everybody, and you just see them working as a unit.
Right.
I would like that a lot.
And they showed a smart way of doing that with Force Awakens, with all the other media they had come out. You didn't have to read everything to enjoy the movie.
Sure.
So the Rogue One can still work as a standalone, but reading the comics will help give a little more life.
So
to what you're
maybe this
watching.
comic will be like a lot of the Journey to the Force Awakens, that you just need to read those in order to figure out what these action figures are, since they won't actually appear in the films.
Exactly.
So you know who you're not buying at Target.
And also, does anybody think that this could be a test for maybe an ongoing Rogue One comic?
Oh.
Yeah,
See,
I mean, maybe
like-
trying to figure out fertile ground for another era, a little corner era
Yeah.
of time to play in, for sure.
Well, the Kanan one just ended, so
Yeah.
obviously there's a spot on the shelf to put something up there, and why not Rogue One, since that's the next push, the next movie they're pushing. So
Yeah.
it just makes sense.
Yeah, the Star Wars line at Marvel has been a lot of miniseries. We haven't really had a big ongoing one. I think Kanan's had the most issues so far, except for the Star
Right.
Wars proper.
Right.
So yeah, that could be fun. TMZ reported
Hey-o.
that Disney recently trademarked the term Shadow Trooper. Now,
Yeah.
the Shadow Troopers, as we knew them, have since become legends. So with this, we also got a tweet from Donnie Yen that he posted a picture of 3 Stormtrooper helmets, presumably from Rogue One. It didn't say anything about them, just like, essentially, hey, check this out. So...
And then it got ripped down, right?
Yeah,
Right,
totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need a second on the internet before it's cloned at least 10, 20 times. So presumably, the helmet on the left of your screen is the Shadow Trooper helmet.
Yeah.
It says a little bit more, maybe recon a little bit more secretive. What role do you want the Shadow Trooper to fulfill in Rogue One?
Well, I think for me, I hope they're the most badass stormtroopers that you can have. Their aim is, I know you hate this, but that their aim
no.
is better. That they can actually shoot and hit
I'll have
things.
a comment on that in a moment, sir.
So, but I like the design. The fact that, listen, there's something about when you do an all-black design and you do it well, it just naturally, as a human being, you naturally gravitate to it and feel its power. There's just something about it. Just like Darth Vader, it's his design, fantastic. Kylo Ren's, you can go back and forth if you feel. I think it's still great, but like Vader has that look. So Shadow Troopers seem to be going in that vein, and it's interesting too, because there are Shadow Troopers in the Jedi side that aren't. It's different. Shadow Troopers is one word, is the Jedi. Shadow Troopers is 2 words, are the Stormtroopers.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. That.
Yeah, all sorts of different iterations in the Legends. But I hope that they're still like the sort of elite force, the badass, like you say, dressed in black. They absolutely should be. And John was mentioning that I have sometimes got cranky about the Stormtroopers
Yes, you
miss
do.
everything joke being old, because it's like I've done some kind of Star Wars comedy at least yearly or more often since like the late 90s. Like, yes, they miss. So I sometimes get cranky about overusing it as a joke. But what I really think is cool is in the new canon, they're making such effort to have people call stormtroopers bucket heads, make it canon that the Emperor knows they're not as well trained as the clones. They're just fodder. There's just so many of them. So the idea of maybe actually making the fact that the normal stormtroopers aren't that good canon, and even doubling down on it in the new movie by like, yeah, those guys are to just run around and look at droids and have boring conversations about new equipment and miss things. These are the real troops.
Yeah.
And I think that would be really cool.
It takes it from comedic to being an actual problem within the Empire, and you see
Yeah.
like the paperwork of like target misses and like certain percentages of troopers. Yeah, that could be fun. In the Battlefront game, Shadow Troopers have cloaking devices as well as long range rifles. That seems to be a step in the direction that it's going, considering. I mean, I don't know if they would consider that game canon, but if that's an official release from post Disney takeover, that could be a good hint of where we're going.
Yeah, and it's so sexy that you have a news item from TMZ
I seriously like
about the Shadow Troopers.
I saw the report from the site that I usually get it from, and I just followed it all the way to TMZ. I was like, what? What is TMZ reporting on this crap? This is ridiculous.
Harvey had some time.
He was playing Battlefront and went, someone look up this Shadow Trooper thing. Our next story, Claudia Gray's Bloodlines, which is about 5-6 years before the events of The Force Awakens, recently received a new summary. John, I believe you have that queued up. You want to share that with us?
The synopsis is the entire generation has prospered during an era of peace. The New Republic, governed by the Galactic Senate on Hostian Prime, has held power for more than 2 decades. The wars that divided the galaxy are fading into legend. Yet conflict has begun to take shape with the Senate. 2 unofficial but powerful factions have formed: the Populists, who believe individual planets should retain almost all authority. This sounds familiar. And the centrists, who favor a stronger galactic government and more powerful military. Now, where have I seen this before? As the political gridlock threatens to cripple the fledgling democracy, centrists leaders have called for the election of a, quote, first senator. It is their hope that this powerful position will bring order to the divided Senate. But populists like Senator Leia Organa Solo, ding, 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 know all too well the price of such order. Even as the election nears, the divisions between the worlds of the galaxy are growing wider.
I believe we just found the person who's going to be doing the audiobook for Bloodline. Make sure to contact John Rocha.
Add ding, ding, ding after Leia's name every time.
Every single time.
And then Han Solo showed up. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we're getting a serious look into the political side of the Star Wars universe. Is this something you're just plain excited to see, or do you think that they should have saved it for a movie?
Oh, I'm thrilled. I think I've been saying a lot that I think that there should be a little bit more politics in the movie if they're going to really affect the story as much as it did in The Force Awakens. But I think it should just be the tip of the politics. Not to make that joke, but it happened. It came out of my mouth. What I'm going to do. But I think it should just be a little bit of politics in the movie, and then the book is perfect to have this kind of complexity. I think especially reading that description of the connections to various real-world politics that we've had over time. Like, if Leia is basically for planets' rights, that's an easy leap to say, like, oh, you mean like being for states' rights? Right. That's a kind of complexity where you might accidentally make an analogy that you don't mean to be taken to its logical conclusion. Right. So I feel like a book is a perfect place to have that room, to have that complexity where you can make some connections to real-world things without like accidentally saying like, yeah, it has these politics from the real world.
Reminds me of Bernie or whatever. Like you don't make those
exactly. Yeah. You can really have fun with the complexity.
Lose yourself a little bit more in a book. How about you, John?
I like that we're getting Leia Organa Solo. I love that we're getting that as an actual name, as an actual character name being put into a book, and so it's going to be talked about and actually be canon. And what stage of the relationship is this at? You know what I'm saying? If she's retaining the last name, that kind of stuff, I don't know how the whole, because that was not even addressed in the movie in Force Awakens, where she was not called Solo in any way, shape, or form. So it's interesting to see that now in print, to see that happening, and
to see if that has any effect on her political career. Right. The fact is, like, you're taking the name. First of all, your husband's a scoundrel. Second of all, you've taken his name and made it much more publicly that you may not be as reputable of a politician, since you have. Like you think of it as an attack ad. Yeah, really, it's like that's your husband, and we'll think of what else she could be up to.
Well, that's actually fascinating, because I mean, Han in The Force Awakens says pretty explicitly, "I went back to what I knew." Yeah. So I don't think he's going around scoundrelling. I think we don't know what Han is doing, because if it's a time of peace, he doesn't have any fighting to do. He's not out gambling. No. Well, maybe he is gambling.
Well, he's obviously getting caught, as we saw in the movie, between two factions who he took money off of. Yeah. So he's still doing what he does best, which is what he said, what you just said, Joseph. Yeah, he said he went back to what he knew best. Leia went back to what she knew best. What's interesting about this whole description is that there are multiple levels at play here, politically, as well, that echo into our own society now. I mean, even more so when you have states' rights versus planets' rights. That's usually a more conservative point of view. But if you put Leia in that, then what are you saying? What does that mean? Yeah. It confuses. It can be something that you can, I haven't looked at it this way before. So it's just fascinating. It's going to allow you more and more challenge of your mind to look at this, see how it echoes. And what you brought up, the attack ad, that's totally what you could do with Hillary Clinton. Hey, Bill Clinton was a scoundrel sleeping with a woman. Allegedly. Those things, you can play with that more and more. And I think it makes it a little more of an adult approach. And Claudia's last album was a little more of a young adult approach.
Last album?
Last novel.
That's one of the things I'm most interested about.
I don't.
Hell of a cellist. That's one of the things that I'm most excited about is how is her style going to adapt to this political thriller seeming style. Either way, book's going to come out. We're going to do a review of it. We're going to talk all about it, so stay tuned for that. Our next story is the South by Southwest festival experience extravaganza. Sure. It's turned into so many things.
Yes.
Hosted a preview of the Secrets of the Force Awakens documentary that's going to be on the Force Awakens Blu-ray. And it's been getting a lot of press. There's a video promo that Star Wars officially released. Go ahead and check it out. We have a frame of it. But with an event as big as the return of Star Wars, would you want to see a theatrical release of a documentary like this?
Oh.
No. No.
Moving on. We get.
No, I will tell you why. I ended up loving the Clone Wars animated series, but when I saw it in 2008 in the theater, and it was something that was Star Wars but wasn't big enough or cinematic enough to be in the theater, it felt weird. And I think it didn't help Clone Wars get launched, because I rewatched it again on Netflix, and it's great as the introduction to an animated television show.
Yeah, if you think of it as like a
cinematic event.
If you think of it as like a 2-part special,
Yeah.
I agree with you, but it's like, no, that's a movie. That's a movie that was in theaters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can see that.
And most documentaries have a point of view, have a message that they want to send, have a cause that they want to champion. That's usually what most documentaries do. This is a making of. It's not quite like, it's not going to have that kind of point of view, because we know the movie got made. We know everything went fine. We know how they picked out. Like, it would be nice to see if you had gone all the way back to the beginning of these people getting the call from their agents saying, because they were among 40 or 50 people that got calls, and there were people profiling this whole idea. Then you see if they're going to get it, not get it. That's more of an interesting documentary. How far they're going. Do you get their late night confessions when they're talking with their friends, like, I don't know if I did a good job at that audition. That's a more interesting documentary. This is more of a making of. So I wouldn't imagine that it would work theatrically necessarily. I'm sure people would go.
Yeah, I mean,
everything
That's the thing. It's going to be a
but,
moneymaker no matter what. And if it's a part of the original budget to make this documentary, then they're just, the only money that they're spending is on advertising. And
Yeah,
getting
I'd
it
be
in the
thrilled to
theaters.
see it at a special event, but I kind of feel like
Okay.
with so much
Like
Star
a
Wars
Comic-Con.
coming.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But
Absolutely.
but I don't want there to be too much Star Wars, and that diminishes how amazing it is to have the big cinematic experience.
Yeah, plus if
agree
you're
with
putting
you.
special featers out in the theaters, then what's the point of getting the... Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
it's
totally.
nice. It's nice to get that as a nice
Although
little
if
gift.
they had the DVD menu and there's just one dude in the back, it's like, hello, I'll be which menu would you like? Which option?
Which language? Which captions? I could put the captions in Wookiee. That's something I would want to see.
The Good
But yeah,
Morning America piece on this is great too. Like, I would recommend that. As well if
the
people haven't
additional,
watched it.
they showed a little bit extra footage.
that
it's
was
very
awesome
good.
to watch.
And lastly, the short list has become even shorter for the Han Solo film. Right now, we're going to put up the 3 actors who are so far in the running. We've got Taron Egerton, Alden Ehrenreich, and Jack Rayner. Now, we did do a story a little while ago about 6 actors who are in the running, and supposedly the other three guys are still in the running, but they've been doing more tests with these 3 than the others. And something else that I found interesting is that they're not testing them separately, is they're also testing them together, leading to an illusion that there might be another member of the Solo family or another best friend. What do you want to do? What would you prefer better? Like a
transporter accident where Han Solo is split into 3 handsome young men.
Don't put it past them, because they've done clones, Joseph. That's all I'm saying.
They have done clones. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Would you want to see like a tragic backstory with like a younger Solo brother, an older Solo brother, or something of that nature? Because these guys are pretty close in age.
Yeah, I don't know. A brother, I think, would be weird to me, especially like with the name Solo. Obviously, it means, it's always meant that. And I mean, if we're gonna see family, I think I'd be more interested in seeing a rough relationship with a parent. I think that always made sense for Han, but now with his relationship with Ben, Kylo, it would be great to see Han's really lousy dad.
That's a great point. I like that. I like the idea of a brother, actually. Even though, I mean, I keep thinking of Yoda. There is another. The whole line of his. But it's a fascinating thing to explore if they're going to have a brother for Solo, because what does that lead to? What is like introducing Leia to him the first time? What do we have, at play here? And he could have been the one that raised him.
Yeah.
You can still have the father concept.
And it could be a non-blood brother.
Right.
Like he could be a fellow
like
orphan, something like that.
Yeah, I'd be more on board with a fellow charmingly handsome orphan. That's fine. Yeah.
Sure. Do you have an idea? What about you?
I agree with Joseph in the fact that Solo kind of speaks to his nature, and that would kind of it would ruin everybody's family tree if they added in another Solo in there, and what if that person got away? I like the idea of just another scamp on the street. And they're both learning from each other to try to be decent human beings and can't.
I also just feel really bad for the guy who's up for Han Solo and then gets cast as Han Solo's younger brother. Like it's
Dan Solo.
Hey, you're the Scrappy Doo of the Han Solo family. Great, you poor actor.
Why am I the Frank Stallone?
You would say, "Let me at him. Let me at him."
Wait, now I want to ask: do you have a choice? Do you have a personal choice?
I've only seen a little bit of Jack Rayner's work. I didn't see Hail Caesar, but I know that Alden's work in it blew everybody away.
He stole the movie.
Yeah, that's what I heard. And I finally just saw Kingsman, and I love Edgerton's personality, and I think his wit matches. I don't know what he can do for an American accent, so
Right.
like that. Accents are really important to me, but I'm sure he's fine. I've seen more Edgerton, so I think that I know that he would be able to pull it off. Not to say that the other ones wouldn't, but personally, I think I would like to see Edgerton take it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on Team Alden after seeing Hail
You are?
Caesar. Yeah,
Okay,
I
yeah.
mean, he was just so funny, but there was still such depth. And even though he's playing like a really, really comic role and a very innocent role, there was a little bit of edge of danger behind him in that film, even though it wasn't even a part of the character necessarily, which was like, man.
It's part of his presence?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you could see him going like real fun Han Solo or a little bit darker Han Solo if we get, the younger scoundrel who's actually doing more questionable stuff.
Yeah. If you see the movie Hail Caesar, the scene where he is on a date and then realizes what's going on and he goes after George Clooney, that's to go find George Clooney. That is the moment where I was like, whoa, there's something more here going on, because he plays like a country bumpkin yokel who gets dragged into being a star in the studio system. And initially you're just like, oh, this is a good interpretation, it's very funny. But then that moment where the twist happens and his brain, like, he becomes very focused, very driven, very serious, and and you see a whole new color in him. So I was on Team Edgerton for a very long time. I'm still on his team, but I would not have an issue with Alden, and I think Alden almost has a little bit of a look of a young Han Solo more than any of the three.
I think they all have a different part that carries them in that way. But I think from just straight up looks, I agree with you on Alden.
The photo we have of Jack Rayner is unfortunate. It looks like a really bad second grade photo of like, what? I had to comb my hair today and put on my nice
Picture?
sweater? I forgot. It was picture day.
So let us know who you would pick as a young Han Solo in the comments down below or in the iTunes reviews, because that helps us keep the lights on. Going from here, let's go to our new segment that will already be done by next week. Rebels Rewind, where we're going to talk a little bit about this past week's episode of Star Wars Rebels. The Forgotten Droid follows Chopper, where we get to learn a little bit more about his backstory. What did you guys think of the episode?
I loved it. When I read the description, I was like, oh, well, that'll be fun to have like a little side adventure with the droids. But I don't know. I feel like it successfully fleshed out Chopper's character as a droid. And, I have been against Chopper at the beginning because I thought he was kind of a little too Disney wacky, like just there to bump into stuff. And then he started to get kind of mean, like, oh, this droid would kill people and not feel like
and
sociopath. Yeah, and now he's just sort of edgy and violent and passionate and maybe a little bit selfish and a little bit sick of being taken for granted. And it fleshed him out as a character. And the moment where he like spun around and said like, here's who rescued me, and put out the projection of Hera, that was like actually emotionally powerful and like started to connect the team in really cool ways.
Yeah, and I liked getting the immediate turn of the protocol droid, who reminded me of the
AP5.
Yeah, who reminded me of the Return of the Jedi, the guy who was torturing all of the droids in there.
Oh, yeah.
One day you will learn respect. I love that guy. But when they were telling war stories about the Clone War, that was another thing that made me go, these are just two dudes who are like, oh, like that was the immediate turn that you heard from him of like you bumbling, like, you too?
Yeah, I think maybe that's what connected with me too, of that larger galaxy and the continual, a little bit more gray areas for Star Wars. And they've kind of played around with the idea of maybe humans don't always treat droids well. Yeah. But here's an episode where we really got to see like, we've been through some stuff and we get abused and they give us feelings and then they don't expect us to have them or use them.
And we've heard the term clanker used forever, really. And now getting it in this context of that sort of epithet has carried on to all types of droids and not just like battle droids.
Yeah, not actual enemies, but just like, servants.
Inappropriate.
Yeah.
I absolutely enjoyed the episode. I thought it was a nice change of pace for what they've been going through for the last few weeks on the series. And you're right, it's a singular Chopper story, but there's more here that they explored. I think you guys said it off air, like they gave him his 3PO, and that lets you see that they're solidifying him more and more. Because I think I was on here once when we discussed like which which character we think might die
Yeah.
first or something like that. And Joseph voted for Chopper, and I thought Zan.
A little bit too excitedly.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And I was wrong. I apologize to Chopper fans everywhere. I was wrong.
But what you said is right. They made him darker. They made him a little meaner. And they even gave Hera that line when she's like, I know this droid. He's always all about himself and not about the team. And this is a fascinating thing to install as a character trait in this droid.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we've always had personalities. In all the main droids of Star Wars, they always have these human personalities. R2-D2 is the composed one who does the right thing all the time. C-3PO is the fussy guy. And so we have all that going through. So you have a Chopper. Chopper's an interesting character because it really is convenient what he's going to do. It's a matter of convenience.
Yeah.
Is it about me or about the team? If it's about the team and I enjoy doing it, I'll do it. If it's about me, I'm going to take the chances and go. I mean, they weren't even barely out of sight before he jettisoned over and tried to get that leg and do all the jazz that they get into. But I thought what was great is they humanized him in such a way that was believable with the character of RP5 coming off. Great voice work by that actor as well, creating that character and making him be initially like have a distance between trying to be connected, but then seeing the logic of Chopper as it goes along, and then him changing, and then the heartbreaking moment where he's like, "I will never forget you, my friend." And I was like, man, I almost got teared up emotionally because it was like such a beautiful, real moment between them. Because sometimes you have to break down the walls to make the human connection. And it was so weird. It was such a great level game because he was this in the Clone Wars, and now he's an inventory droid.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm serving, it's my protocol, it's fine. But you knew underneath, he doesn't really believe what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's saying it because he has to. And it was an interesting exploration of the humanity of a droid. And I know this episode's getting some backlash online, which I don't understand.
I don't either.
But I think it was a great way to show you how more expansive and how many more stories there still are to tell within the Star Wars universe that are relatable to us as humans.
And another big picture, great connection there to show a little bit more of that perspective of, well, I used to work for the Republic, and now the Republic is just the Empire. And if a droid is even like, hey, this isn't right, like, how are humans feeling?
You're right.
And at the end of the show, the whole thing was about the new Rebel base establishing on a planet, and we find out through P5 that the planet they were picking is a trap, totally set up for a trap.
Right.
So he finds a new location. And does any ideas on what the new system may be?
No, I kind of think that they'll go with something brand new so that we don't get too crowded.
Even with the finale next week?
Yeah, I mean, that we don't get too crowded into making the galaxy too small.
Sure.
Unless they're going to do like maybe Dantooine, because we know that was a base at some point. If they're starting to connect timelines, but other than that, I don't feel like they can go to a known planet or should.
It's interesting because you can make pros and cons for both because you're right. The Star Wars can get like real conglomerate. That's what people complain about the most. It's all have to do with these same three families every time. You can do that with the SAR systems as well. So, but I like the idea of exploring something new. You're not as tied to it, and you can bring stuff in from Legends now. You can bring stuff in that was considered Legends or whatever and make it canon. Like all the media of Star Wars has shown that they don't have an issue doing it when it's right and it's convenient and it's been like mapped out. So who knows? Maybe if they go into something newer, then we can start bringing in characters, and who knows? We might see some of the characters alluded to that are going to show up in Rogue One. That's certainly possible.
I think we're looking at Malachor. I think like that, a good reason for it not to be on any Imperial logs and for no Imperial presence is, that's an old Sith site, and it's a very dangerous old Sith site.
Oh, that would be cool.
So that's the reason why it's empty, and they still end up not being able to find a base. So that story continues, but also you send the team of the Ghost down there to check it out. Whole bunch of bad stuff happens, and Vader's there for some reason, because why not?
Because Vader knows it's the end of the season.
Of course.
Yeah.
Vader knows.
He's got to face
In his
Ahsoka
infinite, don't even say it.
I'm sorry.
In his infinite wisdom. So from there, we're going to go to our main topic, which is Star Wars in the real world. Now, I do have a trailer, which I'll have Steven in the booth prepare. There's been a whole trend for virtual reality headsets, and the one for PlayStation, the PlayStation VR, recently released this past week a trailer for what's known as the Trials of Tatooine, which puts you head first into a lightsaber action on Tatooine. And if Steven has it ready, then let's take a look. Okay,
So far, it's immersive.
It's doing a weird thing. We'll figure it out. We'll get back to it.
Okay.
So it utilizes the Battlefront engine, so it's all super realistic. And what it is you put on the VR headset, you grab a lightsaber from R2, and you start deflecting blasts, sort of like what everybody wished the Wii was. Is that experience alone enough to sell you on virtual reality, being able to put yourself in the shoes of Luke Skywalker?
If the lightsaber works, yeah. I mean, and exactly my thought was that was my great hope when the Wii was being developed and announced that you would get that sort of flowing lightsaber action. And yeah, I would need to have it proven to me.
Sure. There's
the lightsaber works.
always a Star Wars standard, and we're gonna talk about it more in a second. We got the trailer up, so why don't we watch it right now so we get a little bit more of a look. So
There's a stick you can hold.
Yeah. So this is the Vive headset as it's being used. There are multiple ones on the market. And folks who have played the demo say that it's pretty engrossing and that the movements are all perfectly one-to-one. But it's the idea of having it all unfold in front of your eyes with the headset.
With everything else blocked out.
Yes. Yeah. So you feel like you're on Tatooine. That makes it such a special experience. Super quick, just a proof of concept. And no release date yet, but the PlayStation VR is coming out in the fall. The Vive is coming out in the fall, and the Oculus Rift is coming out in the spring. So there's going to be a lot of different ways to take part in that experience. John, what about you for VR?
Well,
does that sell you?
Yeah, absolutely, it sells me because I actually had a friend of mine, an active friend of mine, Fred Cross. I went to his house and we were just talking podcasts, and he had the makeshift Google version.
Oh yeah,
the cardboard thing, and I lost my freaking mind because I'm like, you can really look up and look to your left and right, and you cannot see anything else. And I'm like, if you can do that professionally for whatever the price is going to be, which I think is like $600 or $900.
So it's $600 for the Oculus and for the Vive, and then for the VR that's only $400.
Yeah.
But that utilizes the PlayStation 4. So as long as you have a PS4,
I do.
Then you're halfway there. For
Congratulations, you can block out reality.
Finally.
Well, I saw a video of it, and I did some research because I wanted to look at like virtual reality videos and people's like there. You can I don't know if anyone's ever done it. You will lose yourself in it. At the new Harry Potter ride, it's with the 3D glasses. So you become engrossed.
the Quidditch goggles.
Yeah, the Quidditch goggles. You become engrossed into what you're seeing so much so that nothing else matters. And I think because we are driven by sensory perception, and so that to me, virtual reality has always been on the burner for like 20 years now.
Yeah.
The possibility of it. So it's so funny how this now all of a sudden becomes something that becomes to the pop culture as a mass acceptance. Kind of like 3D. 3D has been around since the 60s.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're like, oh, we got to make everything in 3D. And it's so interesting how we just come to things as a populace. And virtual reality seems like the next step for us. And I couldn't be more sold on it because it's also a way to kind of take the Battlefront POV to the next level.
And you can utilize that and just expand that franchise even more with whatever you want. But speaking of the Harry Potter world and all of the 3D that it does there, with technology like this at their disposal, what do you think Disney can do to bring this to like a general populace? Because $400 price tag plus $400 of a console, that's $800. Not a lot. Are we going to see that specific thing in parks, or is in the new Star Wars world, or to Tomorrowland? Like, what do you guys think they need to bring this to the people?
They need to give me a free machine.
Right off the bat. No, I mean, hey, you know what? We would love to review it here in Jedi Alliance.
Yeah.
Please send 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think
and
they
as
need
the
to.
new wave, let me say I'd like to have that machine.
I feel like they do need to find a way to have people who are on the fence give it a try. I do think virtual reality is absolutely like the logical next step, but it also feels like something that's the corporations have an idea. Like, you guys will like this, and sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes companies are like, hey, wouldn't it be great if this new technology was the thing that everybody loved? And sometimes consumers say, no, we don't actually like that experience.
And the problem with VR is that you have to try it. It's so personal, and it's everybody has their own experience. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I had it, you should do it too. You really have to try. Some people have motion sickness. Like there are some programs that program a nose. just a blurred out nose just right at the bottom of the screen so that people don't get motion sickness, because if you look down and you don't see your nose there, that can mess with you.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But I want it to be Skywalker's nose right now. It needs to look like a Hamill
and
nose.
I'll know.
Yeah.
Totally know.
But yeah, I think finding as many ways as possible to get enough people to try it so it gets that sort of that rolling energy of, gets to the point where not only did people want smartphones as they were called then, they didn't want to have a flip phone because nobody was having a flip phone anymore. So if it is, I think they need to get it quickly to that point of like, oh, my buddy doesn't have a thing he can strap on his head when I go play video games with him. He just has one of those old televisions. It needs
it's just a curved TV.
Yeah, there almost needs to be some level of peer pressure of like, this is the norm, I think.
Well, I think with any video game, you have the demos, right? They come out themselves. So if you can do the cardboard thing like they have for Google and do it as a demo, so you have like a 2 or 3 minute demo, then you can try it yourself and see what it feels like to see the actual, and then it'll give you more of an idea and more of an impetus to get the higher end thing. And I also think what they're doing, what they did with the Star Wars Battle Pod, where they have it at all the conventions, they have it for people to play. I think that's really smart to have it on, and I really believe having them like they do with the Battle Pods at Dave & Buster's, at any local arcade places that are around, they can have that set up, and of course you're going to pay a pretty penny, but you can at least try it and see if I want to. Because 1 week you'll spend $10 on the game, and then you'll go and get it for real for $400 when you're ready to. I think all you need is a sample, and what you said, Mark, is great. You have to try it. You have to see if you can handle it. You have to try it, and then you're ready to do it. And
the Star Wars Launch Bay, they've had any sort of active Star Wars maybe mobile app. They have Infinity there. So I figure having a wing available for like a VR experience where you have to wait in line for hours or whatever and give it a shot, may be a way to push more machines. We did get the Jakku tour on with the cardboard version, and it definitely looks like Disney is starting to experiment with that as a way for everybody to further immerse themselves in this world. But I think the biggest question is, on a big screen, if you imagine a Wall-E-esque movie theater where everybody's got a chair and their own screen, would you see an entire Star Wars film in virtual reality?
So do you mean just you would be wandering through the events of the film yourself, or just that it would be absolutely wrapping around you?
So it would be absolutely wrapping around you. You see the movie, like the main screen is happening in front of you, but you can look around and see what those guys are talking about at the cantina.
Okay.
You can turn around and see somebody ordering a drink that you may not have seen before.
Yeah, I'm almost more into that than gaming, and I think that is partially my own bias of the virtual reality is to escape all reality. Yeah. And I have played video games to the point of escaping reality in an almost damaging way. I've told this story before. I once played GoldenEye for like so many hours, and then I literally walked out of the house, walked into the street, and as a car was coming at me, I reached in front of me to hit pause. Like, oh no, oh crap, that car's going to hit me. Like, I've had like almost addiction level video game problems. So for myself, I worry about that level of absolutely cutting off. Reality is something that you do in a fun gaming way for 8 hours at a time. So I'm a little bit more interested in something like that where you're kind of wandering around and there is a time limit of like a movie or the time limit of a social experience.
Or if it's like just a blank room with people wandering around and you get a sense of space. And some of these headsets, you do understand space as long as it's being proper, and they properly project it so you don't run into walls. You see where things are around you. So maybe they get just a giant blank room, like it essentially becomes a holodeck. Yeah. Without projecting everything on the walls, it's a personal holodeck. I like that a lot more.
Yeah.
Two things I want to say. A, I'm totally on board with it.
Yeah.
Because I saw the trailer for Hardcore Henry, and I can't wait to see
That's
that.
what and the thing about Hardcore Henry is it's not entirely in first person.
Oh.
But the ones that the scenes that are just mind blowing.
I don't know what Hardcore Henry is.
Hardcore Henry, it's an action movie where a guy essentially wakes up and tries to escape a situation.
Okay.
And it's all told from a first person perspective.
Awesome.
Literally, everything's like this.
Awesome.
And it's fascinating. Like the trailer is so fascinating if you haven't seen it. The second thing is, this is an interesting thing because people were throwing themselves off roofs at D&D in the 80s. And that wasn't anywhere near virtual reality it is now. And I watch videos sometimes. People like have where they think where they do the virtual reality game and they fall off a roof. People literally freak out and think they're falling off a roof. I saw a German video of a guy like falling backwards, screaming his brains out, thinking he was actually falling. So what's fascinating is this is this is next level stuff, and you just hope it's done responsibly and well, and people understand what they're creating. Because I mean, the GoldenEye situation is not out of their own possibility, because people want to escape to these worlds, because the world sometimes is a bit tough. It's hard, and if you want to go to a place where you're seen as a hero, you're seen as some kind of rebel soldier, or if you have a little dark side to you, play that side of the game. You feel an acceptance in that, and I think that's the only danger in this, that it becomes something people become massively addicted to. I think that movie Strange Days explores that, the one with Ray Fiennes and Juliette Lewis. So,
there's a light side and the dark side of getting totally lost in something. Yeah. And I wanted to say my own video game experience, because it's my experience. I'm not against the technology at all. It's just that I'm aware of the dangers for myself.
So that's how close you've been in any sort of a video gaming universe, but in general, this is a way to give you first person experience in this world. How close in the past have you? What is the closest you've been to the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of video game experiences that got pretty close. Yeah. Like, I've talked about the Phantom Menace for PlayStation 1, which was not even a great video game, but it got to that level of all of these dumb negotiations and deals you were making as Qui-Gon, but it got to that level of immersion where I was doing the stuff that he did. Like, I got to go talk to that person, I got to go talk to this person, and just like, I was there. That's what I was doing today, is trying to get this used part for the pod racer that I needed. And then I would say also the Rogue Leader, in particular, the Death Star 2 battle. Like, that was one of the first ones where, like, the swarm of ships was enough. Yeah. Like, that it felt like, oh, this is not just like a video game. This is, like, they're everywhere in a good way.
I have two examples. One, I played a session of Battlefront where the frustration level of what was occurring was off the charts for me, because
it's a frequently experienced.
Yes, because it was so real to me.
Yeah,
okay. I'm a kind of guy that I watch movies viscerally. You will see me react. You'll see me squirm in my seat. Like, I almost climbed over my seat during 10 Cloverfield Lane. It was so tense. Yeah. And so for me, that's how real it got for me. And the second thing is seeing IMAX, seeing the Force Awakens in the laser IMAX 3D at the Chinese theater. It was one of the most amazing experiences. That's as close as I got to being inside the Star Wars universe. I mean, there were moments where I felt I could touch the Star Destroyer. It was that close to you, and everything that was happening around me with the 3D, because 3D naturally covers your peripheral vision, so all you're seeing. And so it very much felt like that I was in the universe, and I'd seen the movie 4 times beforehand.
Yeah.
And it was still
the
so
IMAX
real.
Was mind-blowing. Yeah. Imagine that with a headset where you could look around.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's someplace we might be in maybe 10 years, because we've got it on a consumer level. Now it just has to be on a mass level where it's inexpensive for theaters to carry that stuff. Yeah. For me, it's here's a Disneyland reference for you. Walking through the first day of the Season of the Force and hearing the Twin Suns theme, excuse me, and walking through and just seeing people in Jedi robes, seeing people in Imperial stuff, and it made me feel a part of this society. And then going on the Space Mountain ride, where it puts you in an X-wing trying to take down a Star Destroyer, was one of the most like, I'm here. I'm in it. I'm 100% here. And then aside from that, the battle pod really is the first thing. Is another thing that just made me feel like I am piloting an X-wing trying to take down the Death Star. Yeah. So cool, and I would do it infinitely. So to sort of wrap up this conversation about Star Wars in the real world, what Star Wars situation would you want to put yourself into?
I feel like I've played a lot of the big battles. It'd be very cool to play big battles. A lightsaber that really, really functions well would be amazing. That's the main thing I've ever wanted out of video games for most of my life, is to actually be able to swing a lightsaber and have it actually swing the way it's supposed to. Which then you have to get real good at a lightsaber, because if it actually does swing as well, like, it's real hard to actually deflect blasters
pretty heavy.
and whatnot. Then
Thick plasma is very, very heavy.
Yeah, well, and then I'll be happy that the stormtroopers are a real bad shot. That's right. And I would get a lot of exercise from just all the waving around like an utter spaz. So I would be really, really excited to do that. But I also like the wandering around. I like that the Jakku thing did just, you could just look around pretty much, but it gave you a little bit of a sense of being there. Yeah. So the thing that I think I would want to do is I would want to descend into the deep levels of Coruscant, and I would like to, since video games have a little bit of an addictive quality to me, I would like to buy and sell and get addicted to death sticks. And figure
there he is!
What that experience is to truly, what are death sticks? What happens when you go really down that death sticks hole?
Boom.
What about you, John?
Well, because I have a military background, for me, I would love to have the training with Yoda experience on Dagobah.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, it would be awesome to have this be an actual thing that you would have to do. And you'd be so motivated to just get down and do whatever and try to do it. Like, it would just be so amazing to be able to experience that, don't you think?
Yeah, because he would also be lecturing you about being calm and peaceful.
Exactly.
So that would offset the sort of video game rage that happens.
Yeah,
Stay
exactly,
calm.
exactly.
Stay calm. No!
It could be used for good. You
Yeah.
know? So I would say that, and then I would also love to explore Mustafar. I would love to get feel that heat, or feel like just whatever you could do to make you so mentally engrossed in it that you're like creating the sensations that are supposed to be happening in front of you.
Is Anakin there still burning? Like you can walk by the lake?
Something
screaming.
smells good. Something smells like a pork roast. Like,
Smells like chicken.
Oh god. I like to that though. To exploring planets, I would want to be like a rebel scout.
Oh yeah.
Like where can we find bases here? You go out and check out this
cool.
planet so that you can, like Hoth. I would love to be on the exploratory mission. Like, oh, this place sucks. It's perfect. Just to be that guy to come in and go, hey, good news, bad news time. Found a place. Bad news. Pretty cold.
Ice planet.
Ice planet. Let's be perfectly honest here. Let us know what situation from Star Wars you would want to be a part of. But let's go from here to the Mind Probe. There it is. It's coming to get us. It's the Mind Probe, even though it's the Imperial Probe from Hoth.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's incorrect.
So let's start off with Mr. Let me talk about the blasted.
Hello.
Let's talk about the damn segment first. Mind Probe is a segment where you go to the Facebook page Jedi Alliance. You like us. We leave a post every couple of weeks where we get questions from you, the viewer. And we're going to take an opportunity now to answer some of those. Let's start with Manning Franks. You have been given full reins by Disney and Lucasfilm to the next trilogy in the Star Wars saga. That's 10, 11, 12. What do you do? What would it be about, and who would you want to focus on? Now, we don't know what happens in 8 and 9 yet, but I thought this would be fun anyway.
Yeah. I would love it to be about proactive Skywalkers. Because at the beginning of our trilogy, Skywalkers react to destiny and fate, and they make choices based on things that happen to them. And I feel like at this point, maybe Rey is a Skywalker. If she is a Skywalker and she goes through her whole hero's journey and the galaxy ends up in a certain way, I feel like if Rey has children, if the Skywalker lineage continues, everybody's got to be really clear with them. Like, look, you're a Skywalker.
Yeah.
You're powerful with the Force. You're a little bit in charge of stuff. So none of this, like, wandering around on deserts and then discovering your destiny. Like, make a choice. You got power. What are you going to do?
Right.
So I would love it to be about, like, a Skywalker going, like, I'm going to make some changes to the galaxy.
Well, Joseph, the problem is these proactive Skywalkers end up being Darth Vader, end up being Kylo Ren, end up being Anakin Skywalker.
I want a proactive, happy Jedi who's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to take my lightsaber around and I'm going to make people hug.
Like a Greenpeace sort of guy.
Yeah,
Have
absolutely.
people sign some.
They're proactive.
This is thematically in my heart what I want to see. I know on the surface, not an exciting movie. Someone with a lightsaber travels around space saying, you guys should work together. Like, I know that's not an exciting movie, but there'd be conflict.
I'm a hero, damn it.
Yeah. And I would love it. The other part is if it doesn't get fully addressed, I would like maybe a Skywalker who's proactive about what is balance to the Force. What does that really mean? What does the galaxy, what does the Force really want balance to be, and how can I help with that? I think that would be my, like, for real, non-jokey part of a proactive Skywalker of, like, if I have control of the destiny of the Force, I'm going to try to figure out what that is.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a difficult question because, of course, 8 and 9 we haven't gotten.
Yeah.
So the natural tendency is to go with Rey and see the kids, who she ends up with by the end. But my thing is, and I've been saying this for over a year now on my other show, but like I really want to bring the Old Republic back into canon, and I would love to see someone, because already we have this precedence with Kylo Ren, like exploring Vader and the old of Vader and what was Vader before, and I would love to see someone exploring going backwards and try to bring that into reality, because it can be something really evil or really good. It all depends on the situation. Where, like, if you create 10, 11, 12 and there's this new evil, like almost like a next level evil, what do the Jedi, how do the Jedi or the Alliance counter it, or the Rebels counter it? They may have to go way back in history to unearth something. Like there was rumors about Skywalker, he was guarding an old lightsaber. There were rumors about that for 8 and 9, like a archaic make lightsabers. So those kinds of things, or to find a new evil, they go way back to discover and reawaken these old ghosts, like kind of like they do what they're doing now with Snoke possibly not being. Snoke not being dead, or Plagueis. All these kinds of things they're playing with, like that kind of stuff, going all the way back and possibly unearthing some, and that could be Old Republic evil. Which, if you've played that virtual reality, the game that was on the computer, it was fantastic.
Yeah, Xbox,
The old
PS2.
RPG,
The old
it was
BioWare
just
game.
so awesome. So
Yeah, I like that a lot. I was going to say something like maybe Indiana Jones-ish, where we find a relic that brings back this old world, and then we actually get flashback heavy, or just prequels, but not prequels. We get glimpses of the past, ghosts of the past returning to haunt the future that has become from them.
I've always to the prequels.
Yeah. I've always wanted to see something about the Sith Order in film, and the creation of the rule, the destruction of the Sith Order, and the creation of the Rule of Two, something like that, and. Because the earliest, and also a nice view of earlier Jedi, because since the prequels have come out, we know why the Jedi Order fell as a result of their actions and how they acted. As a result of their actions, what? So by going all the way back to the first generation and finding out what made them the defenders of peace and justice and all that biz, I would be super into that. I would really like that. Our next question comes from David Brindle. What is your favorite Star Wars parody? Family Guy, Robot Chicken, Hardware Wars, Thumb Wars, Spaceballs, etc.
I haven't seen it in years, but I love Hardware Wars because it is so early on. All these other things are very sophisticated takes on Star Wars that kind of understand it, or are really about the minutia. Hardware Wars was just WTF because it had just come. Star Wars had just come out and changed everything, and I feel like there's a spirit to Hardware Wars, which is like, what the F was that?
People who think they understand the movie trying to make their own version of it.
I think Hardware Wars just kind of points out how ludicrous this is. And it was great that it was so successful, obviously, because we love Star Wars, but it is also like, you go back to old interviews with Han Solo, it's like, I was flying around with a dog. It was weird, And I think there's something about that's funny to me, that Hardware Wars has that perspective of how weird it is.
Yeah.
My initial reaction, speaking of ludicrous, was Spaceballs with ludicrous speed. I mean, I love Spaceballs. I think Mel Brooks. There was a golden age of Mel Brooks where he could really delve into these topics and expose the jokes within them that were not necessarily harmful to the product, the original product. I thought he was really good at that. Like,
it was tastefully done, not insulting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you sense the parody being made, and it was out of reverence rather than which I liked about the the droid stuff that was on XD, Droid Tales, Droid Tales. I loved Droid Tales. Nobody talks about it. It's so brilliantly, such a great joke about Star Wars that still respects the property. And so, but the other one is, do you guys remember the YouTube video that was made that was a parody of Cops?
Yeah,
Troops.
Yeah, that was great.
That is still my favorite parody of any Star Wars thing. It's so brilliantly done. And it's like, you can say it's dated because it was from the 90s. But
dated, but that's all. There are a couple of things that prove whether a medium is going to succeed, and one of them is not necessarily family friendly, so I won't mention it.
Yeah.
But the other one is Star Wars.
Yeah.
Star Wars is always a final test of, well, can you make Star Wars work on this? Like for the Wii, it was, I can't wait for the Star Wars game. For the internet, it was, we can put all of our Star Wars stuff on, and it's not just something that's going to live at fan festivals.
Right.
So yeah, I'd love Troops. Troops was good.
And also to go back to a way earlier point, it's the first time we saw the humanity of stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Like that they weren't these idiots who kept missing people. They were legitimate cops that had to handle this stuff and deal with these the populace, and what's that like to be put on a planet. And then you have to deal with how to handle Jawa, how to deal with all the sand people, all that stuff. And so I thought that was a brilliant thing.
Yeah. I loved it. I can very rarely get the Robot Chicken sketches out of my head because especially that first one, it just hit so many good marks, and even the first sketch with Seth MacFarlane as the Emperor, like trying to make a sandwich order, and Vader calls him. It's one from the quote unquote modern era that I think stands up. But Spaceballs, I gotta agree with you there too, and the fact that we are getting a Spaceballs sequel is equally as like we're getting a new Star Wars, we're getting a new Spaceballs, the quest for more money or the search for more money. If you haven't seen any of the ones that we've listed, make sure to check them out. It'll just widen. So it'll make you think about certain things in the Star Wars universe that you may not have thought about before. Yeah. Then our last question is a little bit more serious from Scott Shigemi. Star Wars is pretty much black and white, but would the Alliance pair up with the Empire if there was another bigger force to contend with? If so, which side would extend the olive branch first?
I feel like this is a question about the Borg, right?
I was just gonna say we were allowed to mention that on this show.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah. I feel like this is the Borg invading. Oh yeah, of course the good guys reach out first. The bad guys they're too mean and too evil. Right. I do think it would be really interesting to see some kind of story like this, probably without the Borg, but going forward, probably.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
We'll see. In the J.J. Abrams verse.
It would work.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've talked a lot about this on the show, that in the books and the comic books, the black and white is really going away.
Yeah.
And it's getting to be a gray area. And I feel like that Force Awakens retained a little bit of the black-white of the good guys against the bad guys. But the fact that Kylo Ren was such a conflicted character from the get-go already adds a little bit of gray to it. So I could see something like this happening. I could see this being a plot point of a future big saga movie of the good guys and the bad guys do have to come together and find the common.
Yeah. I agree. Obviously, it'll be the Alliance or the Rebels, whatever form.
Or the Resistance.
Or the Resistance,
or the official nice guys.
Whatever form.
Nice Guys Anonymous.
But I think what's interesting, the reason I think that is because they're always trying to save people before they join the Empire, and even after they join the Empire, they're trying to save them from the Empire.
Yeah.
The natural impetus or the natural drive of all the rebels is to save anyone who is in the Empire or from the Empire. Luke tried to save his dad the whole time. You know, this happens. You know,
and we saw it on Rebels this past week.
We saw it on Rebels, exactly. Yeah. It was a microcosm of the entire thing. That happens all the time, and so that's why the Alliance would absolutely reach out first. I feel like.
I think they would reach out, of course, get Buff like, no, are you kidding? We got this. And like Joseph said, I think this could be a way to, like, the First Order essentially all but wiped out. Everybody's super into Gwendolyn Christie as Captain Phasma, and it could be a way to sort of take what they're learning from all of the reactions from Episode 7. And if the Knights of Ren end up becoming this destructive force, the small destructive force tearing through the galaxy, there'll be no choice. But we need military power that we just don't have.
And we saw this already. You said Rebels this past week, but it also happened on Rebels with Agent Callus and with Zeb.
Yep.
Where they had that thing where they had to work together. One was from the Empire, one was from the Rebels, and we got to hear their stories of how they chose the sides that they chose.
Right.
And so that was still one of my favorite episodes of the whole season.
Totally.
So or even the series, really. And so to see that in film form would be fantastic.
I agree. Thank you, everybody, for sending us these wonderful Mind Probe questions. Make sure to go to our Facebook page, Jedi Alliance. Give us a like. We're going to post a new link this week so you can leave your questions for us to answer. Thanks again. Let's go from here to the Duel of the Fates. I love that music. So, last week's question, as Joseph put it, which Star Wars character would you like to see do stand-up and why? Everybody picked completely different answers. The only answer that repeated was C-3PO.
Okay.
That was that winner. Yeah. But it was.
Can we hear John's?
Please, no, yeah.
Okay.
Who I would like to see.
Yeah, who would you want to hear do stand-up comedy?
Salacious B. Crumb.
That wasn't the first answer.
Really?
No, yeah. Didn't Mike Black say that?
Yeah, I think he did.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't use that one.
No, of course you can.
No,
that's great.
Yeah, consensus is great.
Okay, so I think he's
the guy who laughs at his own jokes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's
and doesn't care if you
laugh.
laugh at his. Like he's totally George Burns.
He's just up there having his own. He's up there having his own time. So yes, I guess the concrete winner would be C-3PO just because two people put it instead of everybody else. We had Jabba the Hutt, Han.
Jabba would be terrible.
Well, no, like he would kill. Literally, he would kill everybody who didn't laugh at his
This
jokes.
huge stadium all over the Rancor pit. 1,000 people dropped in there. Like, go ahead, but Rancor, it's a buffet.
You know, great if you found footage of Emperor Palpatine in his young years trying to be a stand-up. He's
Sheev,
terrible
and
at
that's
it.
what
He's just
did it?
terrible at it.
That's what I'm gonna go to politics. This is ridiculous. Terrifying. So some of our favorite answers from the Facebook page. Brad Baldonado says, "I think a Stormtrooper stand-up comic in the mold of The Unknown Comic,
Hey-o.
if you're old enough to remember, would be
Totally.
hilarious. So much material from being just a number to learning how to shoot a blaster.
Hey-o.
That's fine. It's great. It's good comedy.
To the
Good
everyday
comedy.
challenges of using the bathroom. Comedy gold." Aiden Hosey wrote, "Hello, I'd love to hear 3PO try to do comedy. We know from the Ewok story time in Jedi, he's good in front of a crowd. And those sound effects, sign me up for a show." I think that would add a lot to him. Justin Seiler, Greedo. Bounty hunting didn't really pan out for him. I'd really like to see him get a win.
Yeah.
Poor Greedo.
But the audience would heckle first.
Like-
he'd be done.
And it gave me a feeling of he was at the cantina for the open mic, but Solo showed up first. Was like, damn it, all right, and he put his set back in his pocket. Never ended up doing it. Poor guy. So this week's question, in a similar vein, the picture of the Solo
awesome.
the Solo family photo was going around so much it made me think it looked like a sitcom. So which Star Wars character group would make the best sitcom? Joseph.
Well, I would want to create a sitcom called Just the Two of Us. And this would be all about just Vader and Palpatine hanging out a bunch. It would be really, really awkward. This would be it would be awful. It would be like if Full House was directed by David Lynch. It would just be lots of like cheesy laughs, and people would applaud when Vader walks into the throne room, but then they would just stand there together for long, vacuous pauses, and then Palpatine would just kind of go on about like things he likes, but just like, I enjoy a good Gouda. Smoked Gouda, and Vader would just be breathing heavily throughout.
And you can't
Laugh
tell if he's
track
being
everywhere.
sarcastic or not.
So
Yeah. Every episode is 22 minutes, but it feels like days of your lives.
Because if you read the Vader comic, you see the beginning of their relationships where he's constantly putting him down,
Yep.
and constantly questioning his decision to be by his side.
Yep.
The Emperor's always questioning Vader, so it'd be great if he's like, "Do you smell something? Was that you, Vader, again?"
Dutch oven.
It's the smell of your failure.
What about you, John?
For me, and this is obviously the natural thing is R2D2 and C3PO and an odd couple thing, but like for me, obviously, I really it just came to me like a diamond bullet through the brain. Bib Fortuna in a Curb Your Enthusiasm type show, because if you read the history of Bib Fortuna, he has tried on numerous occasions, and canon or legends, whatever you want to consider it, to try to kill Jabba the whole time he has served Jabba.
Oh, yeah.
So it would be great to see the multiple seasons where he's trying to kill Jabba in new and interesting ways and keeps failing every single time. Salacious keeps messing with him and always makes fun of him, and you could just hear that sound. Don't, da 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 da. And every time.
So
he
it's sort of
messes
like
it up.
Pinky in the Brain with Bib Fortuna
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Sally B. Crumb.
But Salacious is just a character who comes in and is always messing with him.
Okay.
Like, and so whereas Bib is always coming up with he thinks these brilliant ideas to try to get Jabba, and they keep failing. They keep failing and they keep failing. And he's just the joke of the throne room.
Not expecting Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's a good poll. I mean, I'm a big fan of Arrested Development, so I would
great show.
want to see something with the Skywalker family in between Episode 6 to because we don't know
Right.
anything that much about him. So Luke's like a Job role of the crazy uncle.
Crazy magic uncle.
Yeah, crazy
actually.
magic uncle.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I wouldn't want Lando to be Buster. I still don't want Lando to be Buster. But that sort of a irreverent thing about the young family that was the Skywalkers and / Solos. In that sort of a frame.
It'd be great to see Luke levitating things to the final countdown.
Yeah, exactly.
Levitating rocks.
It's like, or the newest Max Rebo record, or something like that. Yeah,
Onion.
There's two. That's Chewie's Onion.
It's gotta be
Chewie's Buster.
Yeah, Ninub would be Onion.
Totally.
Because
Let us know what sitcom you would want to see from the Star Wars universe. We're going to post that tomorrow on the Jedi Alliance Facebook page. But that'll do it for our show.
Oh.
Joseph, is there anything that you want to say to the fans out there?
don't get emotional. Don't get.
Don't get emotional?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to cry.
Oh, damn it!
Yeah,
All right,
I was
fine.
He's been holding it back the entire show.
Yeah, let me try. No, I have many things to say to the fans. I want to do a quick plug for some stuff coming up. That you can find me on all the social medias is at Joseph Scrimshaw. You can find my website at josephscrimshaw.com. If you're in LA, I've got a show coming up. It's a new comedy game show I'm doing with my friend Hal Lublin. That's all about pop culture. We got great guests. Will Wheaton's going to be our guest for the first show. It's on Friday, April 1st. The show is called Head Canon. If you enjoy hearing me talk here on Jedi Alliance over the last few months and over the last year is a guest before I was a co-host, you can still find me talking about Star Wars on the Force Center podcast with the other old Jedi Alliance host Ken Knapsack, so just look for Force Center there. And more than anything that I got the plugs out of the way, I just want to say a huge thanks to all the fans of Jedi Alliance who stuck with the show when Ken left and gave Mark and I a chance and have been just super, super supportive.
Beyond supportive.
Yeah, I hope that everybody keeps watching. I think everybody will. I think everybody should. I think, John, you are about the most charming man I have ever met.
Thank you.
And I would listen to you just like read recipes for chicken. So to me, it's a bonus that you're saying insightful and funny and thoughtful things about Star Wars. And it's been just a huge honor to work with you, Mark. It's been a ton of fun.
Pleasure's been all mine, Joseph.
Yeah, it's been great to get a different perspective of Star Wars, and it's been great to learn so much about Disney.
I do what I can. Well, I mean, it's hard to follow that up. But
Yeah.
John, anything that you want to put yourself over with? Or?
Well, nice. I just want to say thanks for taking a chance on having me come on. I'm really excited to come on. And of course, like I've said before at the beginning, following the footsteps is going to be very difficult. So I hope you all stick around, give me a chance, give me a little bit of time to find my feet and for us to find our chemistry. I think I love and respect Mark a lot. And it's been a joy to come on as a guest. And the compliments and the reactions that people have had of me as a guest have been very nice. And so I hope they continue as I take this step on. And please know, I take the show very seriously. I take people watching and listening very seriously. I may play around, I may joke around, we may explore things, but like I have a complete reverence for the show and for the property of Star Wars. And so I just know that it's in good hands, and I'm going to do my best to live up to everyone's expectations.
Yeah, the last thing that I want to say about John Rocha is I have said on this show, I think my first appearance as a guest, when we used to do the 5 questions, and Ken asked me what one of my favorite Star Wars quotes is, I love the moment in A New Hope when Luke, nobody's really listening to Luke, and he says, "I care."
Yeah.
To me, that's John Rocha. I know that you care in that deep, honest way that Luke Skywalker says that great line of dialogue. I care.
Yeah, that's true. That's
John
fair.
Rocha cares.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's our new foundation, the John Rocha Cares Foundation. But this whole show is a celebration, and it's been a wonderful being able to spend all of this time with you, Joseph. To expand mine too. Like, one of my first experiences on the show was the May the 4th episode last year.
Oh, yeah.
Where you annihilated me in trivia. And I was just like, I thought it was pretty good. And just like opening up so many doors when it comes to this franchise.
Cool.
And thank you so much for dragging along a young pup like me in this Star Wars podcast world. And John, I know we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna keep celebrating, and that's that we're gonna keep celebrating with you. So stick with us. And you didn't even get your Twitter.
I didn't even plug it. I'm sorry. At the Rocha says ROCHA. That's my homage to The Rock. And I guess we've hit the time.
No, we have, but no, that's fine.
Yes.
No, go ahead.
So that's it. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. See all the other shows that I'm co-hosting or hosting on, and follow me there.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Mark Donica. Follow the show at Jedi_Alliance and find us on Facebook at Jedi Alliance. Thank you for watching and or listening to Jedi Alliance. You can visit popcorntalknetwork.com to find a nice list of all of the past episodes of Jedi Alliance and links to both YouTube and iTunes. Please follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Jedi Alliance for all of the us-related news. This has been Jedi Alliance on the Popcorn Talk Network. We talk movies. Thank you for listening, because many Bothans died to bring you this information.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com.
I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.